Hi everybody, come hang out with me today in my kitchen.
The first thing that I'm trying to make today were homemade rolls with active dry yeast. And I have never tried to use yeast before. You can see I sprinkled some into my mixer there, but these were really tricky. So I even took the temperature of the warm milk that I used to make sure that I had the temperature right, that it wasn't too hot or too cold for the yeast. And still I felt like the yeast didn't really rise like it was supposed to. But by my third attempt at getting the yeast to start bubbling with the warm milk, I just went with whatever it looked like. So you can see I did mix up the dough, let it sit for 2 hours, kind of mushed it back down, or I really didn't have to knead it. It was so soft, as you can probably tell. And I cut it into little pieces. And this is not a fast process either. To make homemade rolls, you need to have some time on your hands. So I buttered this little baking dish, and then after I kind of put them all into nice little rounds, I popped them in the baking dish to let them rise. And that's what they looked like. It all mushed into like one big roll. So kind of back to square one, just scooped them out of there, reshaped them, put them in a bigger baking dish, and then let them rise. So the next thing that I'm making is some homemade oatmeal in the crock pot. And I want it to be apple cinnamon. So I just took a couple of apples and peeled them and cut them up into little chunks. And I'm using the Bob's Mill brand of rolled oats. So I scooped some of the oats into the crock pot. Then I put in some milk and a little splash of apple cider. I don't know if that's weird or if you should be mixing apple cider with milk or not, but I did. And I also added salt and cinnamon and then put in all my apples. Give everything a quick mix. That's what it looks like right when you put everything in before it's even started to cook. And then you pop the top on and let it cook for a while. Now I'm working on dinner, so I've had a special request for spaghetti with meat sauce. So I'm browning up the ground beef, and then I'll take it out of the pot and heat up some oil and butter. To the hot oil and butter, I will add some minced up onions and green bell peppers. I also cheat, like my best kitchen cheat, easy to use product ever, I think, is this garlic in a tube from the grocery store. It's so much easier than mincing garlic yourself. I also add some beef stock to that and let it keep cooking away for a few minutes. I add some crushed tomatoes. Tomato paste. And to clean out a couple of things that I had just laying around in the fridge that I needed to use up before they go bad, I poured in the remaining half of a can of some diced tomatoes that I had opened for another recipe, and also added a little bit of leftover marinara out of a jar. So yeah, that's probably cheating, but it's better to use them up than to let them go to waste. So after I put those in, I put in some seasonings, and then I poured in the ground beef. And I wasn't sure if I should use all of it right away, so I didn't. I kind of held some back, and then I did go ahead and add a little bit more after this, but that 2 pounds of ground beef like went really far, so I definitely had some leftovers that I didn't put in the sauce. Then you put the lid on and just let it cook away. So now we're going to check on our homemade oatmeal, and it's doing pretty good. It looks good, nice and steamy and warm. That is about the consistency I like. I usually like it a little bit soupier. So I'm going to serve some up because by this point I'm pretty hungry, so I'd like a snack. And so this is how I would make it for myself. So I gave myself obviously a nice portion, and I prefer a lot more cinnamon. And I also added some brown sugar to that. Give it a mix. If you want to thin it out a bit, you can definitely add some milk to it. I like slivered almonds on my oatmeal as well when I have them handy, and that bag is from Trader Joe's. I love those. And just a few apple slices and you're ready to go. By this point, the homemade rolls are out of the oven, and most of them look just fine. A couple of them look a little bit deflated, but overall they really look nice, and the important thing is that they taste nice. So on the top of them, I am rubbing some melted butter with honey. Extreme bread close-up. Now I'm mincing up some fresh parsley to put in the tomato sauce, and fresh parsley is such like an odd particular scent, but I love the way that it smells once it's minced up. I don't know why, I just think it smells so like weird but good. I'm also adding a rind of a piece of Parmesan cheese, just any old like decent brand Parmesan that you can get in a hunk at your grocery store is fine. So I just put the rind in, and I also put in some grated up Parmesan cheese, and then as you let your sauce keep cooking, preferably for like an hour or more, you just let that rind of Parmesan sit in there and cook away. I have to get the pasta going because by the time the sauce was ready, the rolls were ready, things were moving along, I was ready to eat, and I totally forgot that, yeah, I actually have to make the spaghetti noodles. So finally got those made, got everything plated up, put a little more fresh parsley on the top of our spaghetti and meat sauce, and then took that wedge of Parmesan and grated some of the fresh Parmesan right on the top. I really don't think you can have enough cheese on your pasta ever. Like, it's just not possible. Now it's time for dessert. So the first step is making some homemade whipped cream because that just tastes better. I don't know. I mean, I like the whipped cream in a can from the store, but I also really like homemade whipped cream. And it's easy to make as long as you have the heavy whipping cream on hand. I'm adding a touch of green food coloring because I want to make green whipped cream. I thought it would be more festive and more Christmassy. Then we're making a very easy dessert, obviously, but one of my favorite foods ever. It's like one of my main food groups. It's milkshakes. So my sister has requested an Oreo milkshake, so she's up first. We're gonna make hers. And we topped it with some of the green homemade whipped cream. And then she put a few Oreo crumbs on the top, just for good measure. And last but not least, I'm making my milkshake. So you will see that my milkshake is a little bit over the top. So for the bottom half of my milkshake, it's using peppermint ice cream, so it's a peppermint milkshake. And then in the middle of my glass, you'll see that I sprinkle in some Oreo crumbs, which I love to scoop out later after they've like softened up a little bit. And then the top half of my milkshake is chocolate. And I put some of the green homemade whipped cream on top of that and sprinkle some peppermint pieces and a little extra Oreo, mint Oreo for garnish. And of course, I make a big mess in the process. But anyway, that's all that I'm making for today. So thank you so much for spending time with me in my kitchen. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.